morning. So it says it's showtime, so here we go. January the 5th. Good morning, Charlotte. Welcome back to the LinkedIn Live. Good morning, everybody that's watching. And good morning, Phillippa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Be Career Confident Associate. Happy New Year. We're still okay? 5th of January?
It's only
It's yeah. I think after the end of this week, I'm done. That's where I'm done. So welcome to those that are joining us for the first time, and welcome back everybody that has joined us over the past 2 years, either regularly or on and off. Please do use the chat to say hello. You will see me sort of looking in different places at chats and maybe adding some content in. So those who have joined us for the first time, that is Charlotte's alarm that is somebody at her gate. We do have little interruptions, you know, sometimes we have dogs, sometimes we have children, but this morning hopefully it will just be the gate. But fingers crossed, or the door going. So my name's Ruth Forster, and together with Charlotte Sykes, we created Be Career Confident over 2 years ago. Can't believe where that time's gone. And invited associates that we've worked with over the years who have got specialist knowledge to support Be Career Confident. And Be Career Confident is there for supporting individuals with their careers and their transition and their development, and also hiring managers and business owners on career development and hiring and support with their teams. So this year, we're sort of a little bit mixing it up a little bit, and we're going to tackle things on a quarterly basis, because what we've found over the past 2 years, Charlotte and I have been in a really good planning mode, and we've planned the year ahead of what we'd like to talk about, and then grenades get thrown in and we're thinking, gosh, that's not on topic, we need to be talking about something else. So what we thought we'd do is this year we were going to build it on a quarter. So we will still be live on the first Thursday of every month, but we'll have an overarching topic of what we want to talk about, and it will be supported by career theory. After I have lovely graduated from my master's, you are all going to get my knowledge on the theorist, but don't worry, I'm not going to bore you. It will be a nice connection in. So this quarter, we are going to focus on our communities and how that they can support us as individuals, and also when we're looking to hire and develop teams within our businesses, and it's all interlinked. And the theorist that I love, and this is why I have literally gone for this theorist first of all, is because it made sense to me when I was learning about why we make career decisions. And it's community interaction theory by a gentleman called Bill Law. And I'm going to pop the link in. We will share lots more content. But overarching, the theory is about who influences us in our careers from the very start. And that's Charlotte and I do a lot of work within the schools. And if you think about, you know, our peers, our teachers, all the way through into our work life, it continues. And it looks at what the expectations are of us, what the pressures of us to follow a particular path, the feedback that we get from other people that might influence us, the support that we get, the modelling. So that's again about people who are influencing us and what we see and behaviours, and then the information we're given. And it's all in with that community and that network. Today, we're talking about career planning. And again, this all feeds in. So that's my theorist, Mr. Bill Law. I will be sharing. Got lots of good mornings in the chat as well. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to to pass to Charlotte and sort of say, right, well, we're in new year now. So if we think about what we need to do on career planning and what's happening, how are we feeling?
Are you talking personally, or are you talking on a wider footing?
No, we're not on a career counselling session, so sweetheart, today. Let's talk about individuals. And is it January? There's a lot of people who say January is a good time to start and like do that reset. And everybody talks about New Year's resolutions. But I think there's any point in your career that or in the year, sorry, that you can stop. And it's about reflecting, really, isn't it? It's about that piece of, okay, it's not just that it's a new year, but maybe we do feel a little bit refreshed, unless you've worked in retail or the food industry, and then you're probably absolutely shattered. But, maybe 60, 70% of us have had a decent break. I mean, maybe it's made us sort of think from an individual point of view, and also maybe what we're doing within our teams and our businesses.
I think that's right. I think the comment of Christmas, that period of time, we have discussions that we might not have during the rest of the year with, friends, extended family. How are you? How is everything? How's work going? And it gives us, it sort of introduces that conversation of actually, it's going all right. Or maybe as you've been having those discussions, it's kind of brought to the surface issues that you need to address. So I think that stop and reflect is really important. The change of year does give us the opportunity, because it forces it, doesn't it? It's got a different figure on the end of the year. It forces to say, right, it is a new opportunity. It is a new time. I think that reflection bit, so busy during the Christmas holidays, and it's so busy, like you said, lots of people come into January actually feeling quite fatigued. Some people come in going, right, I'm going to do dry January. But actually that opportunity to say, where am I? What am I doing? What am I trying to achieve? And really kind of putting a bit of time for ourselves, whether that's, time to get more mentally fit and more mentally agile, whether that's time to get more physically fit and physically agile, or from a career point of view, where am I? How can I really push forward this year? And it's a comment to encourage, isn't it? It's to encourage everybody to use it as an opportunity this time of year to say, right, okay, where are you? What do you want to do? And obviously in true BCC style, we come at this from two angles. We come at this at supporting individuals, but we also come at it supporting businesses. So from an individual point, where are you and what do you want to do? But as a business, where are you and what is it that you want to do? I think, whenever everybody knows we always have our planning session for this. And I think, Phillippa, you felt that was a really important time, didn't you? Just to stop and reflect. And Phillippa, obviously, just to go back a little bit, everybody, lovely Phillippa, has been a BCC associate since day one. But for those of you who might not know Phillippa as well, she does a lot of work, leadership, training, encouraging businesses how to develop their people. So really comes at this from a really solid business angle, which is why we're so keen that you're here today. So Phillippa, I'm going to bounce that question to you. As a business, how might they reflect and how might they start thinking about their kind of career planning and strategy for this year?
Well, I think what's interesting is retaining staff has been a challenge for lots of companies over this last year, and attracting people. And we know that a lot of people will leave a business because of their unfulfilled potential, and they may feel they've got lots of skills that aren't being utilised in a business. So it's very much in the leadership training that we deliver, myself with the lovely Fiona, is about identifying potential in individuals and their career aspirations. But it's about individuals identifying it themselves. So you as a leader, how do you ask the right questions in order to make your colleague think about where is the future? What are my talents? What am I really good at? And how can I develop? And if you're in sales and you're talking about networking, you know that you go out there and you go to business meetings. Well, you did pre-pandemic anyway. So you were part of the chamber and you go to all these events. But interestingly, when you're looking at your career path, it's probably also about your self-branding. and looking at your profile within the business and how can you expand your profile. I'm not sure individuals always think of it like that, to get their own exposure out there.
Yeah, I think often bigger businesses, we hear that expression, don't we? Oh, I'm a number, or I'm a this, or I'm just a cog in a wheel. And it's actually, that personal brand is so important. And it's saying, okay, well, this year, who am I? Who would I like to be? And who do I need to have around me to be able to become that? And that's where we pull on that careers theory, isn't it, Ruth? Actually, a lot of this is strategy to say, I can't necessarily do this on my own, again, as an individual or business, but who do I need to have around me to get me to that point? Whether that's we need to bring in new hires, whether that's we need to build on our existing team, and reskill them. And that's really excited to be looking at that bit in session 2 of this quarter, where we talk about kind of upskilling and retraining our current and existing team. But that's making sure we're aware of the fact that we know some of these people already. But are we being considerate, and are we realising their importance?
Well, what I'm finding is quite interesting is how companies are approaching appraisals. And sometimes we'll be speaking to clients and suddenly November, it's appraisal time. And it's almost like an absolute pain because everybody's got to get their appraisal done. And there's a bit of a performance management slant to it. And I think what's important is almost reframing that word of appraisal. And we talked about this, didn't we, of how I know they talk about development reviews, but about career planning. You were coming up with different words.
I think we were here, career development chats rather than appraisals.
Yeah. And I think that gives a different slant to the meeting. And it also then doesn't feel it's an annual chore that's got to be done. It's important about doing an annual review and looking and identifying what potential an individual has. But then it's about the one-to-ones that take place throughout the year. You touched on that, Ruth, of that approach from an environment point of view.
Yeah, and I think appraisals, it's interesting, isn't it, when you're working in a business, and if you've worked in several businesses, how they are approached. Like, we've all experienced that, oh my goodness, it's appraisal time, we've got to get them done. But it's the importance of them and how important it is from the individual, of having that time with your immediate line leader, manager, to just explore. So how is the role? It goes back to the reflect, of the stop and the reflect. So how are things? What are you enjoying? What is not great? What could be even better? It's even just in those 3 simple questions. It doesn't need to be onerous or in detail. And yeah, in the pandemic, it forced me to be able to have time with my team, and we would go out and go for a walk, grab a coffee and go for a walk. And I suddenly thought, gosh, these are a lot more enjoyable. This is great. Because you can walk with somebody, and interestingly, you can have a conversation without eye contact. And sometimes that can really soften what's happening. It can soften it from you as the person doing the appraisal and the questions you might want to ask. But it also gives people time to breathe. They're walking around with a coffee. It just, for me, it softened it, and it just became, do you know what? It became more human.
And I think it gives you an opportunity to listen, because if you're sat in an office and you're face to face, and like you say, that eye contact, and you're both there, when actually you're walking along, it's all about the silences. Because remember, when there's silence, it's always busy in somebody else's head. They are thinking of something. If you ask the right questions, give them that time to think. And I think those informal walking meetings gives that opportunity, and actually to find out what people enjoy. Because for goodness sake, times have changed from work being such a necessity that you had to go to work to provide your family. This new generation that's coming through, if they don't like it, they move on. If they're not enjoying it, they move on. You made a really interesting point, Ruth, and we were chatting, and you went, look, think about this generation. They will be working until they're 75. I mean, it is a long time.
I think my first comment was they're going to be alive until they're 100.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be working until they're 75. And we were talking about younger people at that point, weren't we? Well,
yeah.
Why do they have to get it right now? Because let's be honest, got a lot of time to reposition themselves. If their core behaviours, and I think this is the thing, as an individual as well, thinking about your career ongoing, if you've got those core behaviours of, for me, it's good communication, leaving a business in a positive manner, letting somebody leave a business in a positive manner. Again, we talked about this of it. Somebody said this to me probably about 10 years ago when I was doing some training, and they said, when people leave your organisation, think of it in this way: you've hired them because they were good. When they move on, sometimes it's a case that they're still good, even brilliant, but they just can't be brilliant in your environment.
Yeah.
And I think this is the whole thing, as leaders and as individuals, if our behaviour is right and honourable and respectful and we communicate well, then we're going to build relationships that we can pull on. This comes back to the network, because again, you might leave a business that then in 10 years' time, you go to another organisation and somebody you worked with 10 years ago is there. And you want them to remember you in a positive manner. And when I say a positive manner, I don't mean, they were really friendly and they were lovely. No, it doesn't have to be that. It could be they were great at their job. They were commercial. They made the right decisions for that business. Yeah, they were quite stern in their approach, but they did everything in the right way for the business and the people in it.
And you don't lose that connection with those individuals. They may become a customer of yours. They may become a supplier. And it's interesting because we've got a format for coaching individuals where we look at over the 4 years of the different questions to be asking different individuals at different times in their careers. So if I can share that, I'm sure that'll be very, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share something that Pete commented on. So sorry, this is me jumping because I really like this. Harry Redknapp at Tottenham said, who would recruit great players by saying, join me, give me 3 years and you'll leave to Man U, Chelsea, Barcelona. He hired great talent with that approach.
Yeah.
And I think if you accept what you can offer somebody at that point, that is a great.
But isn't that that dialogue's two-way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm an individual going to a business, and I hear that. That's brilliant, because I know that person's going to invest in me, give me the skills, upskill me, and send me on my way. And as a business, you're getting people who are wanting to learn, wanting to get better, wanting to improve, and then improve and leave. That's not.
How do you think companies feel about people being there for 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one, but I think, we talked about it, didn't we, actually, being that pride of saying, hands up, business owners, we'd be lying if sometimes when somebody's left, we don't take it personally. Every business. I was talking to somebody yesterday, they're a 4th generation engineering firm here, family business. He said, we've lost 7 people last year. You know, they're a massive firm, but the idea that they've lost 7 people, he said, I'm heartbroken. It's like, okay, let's look at them. And case by case was a really good, valid reason for people leaving.
Yeah.
I'm just putting some comments up here that just, I confirm what we're saying, but I think there's some real good stuff in here. Tracy's, I've taken down now, but saying about great, you're a great ambassador, being part of their career journey. It's the greatest compliment of your training skills. So I think coming back to your comment, Phillippa, is as much as we're uncomfortable with it, sometimes we've got to just accept it.
Yeah.
If you're hiring people, they come in and do a great job for you. And then it's your responsibility to understand what their career plan is, and to think about the succession plan behind it.
Yeah. And as a leader, it's recognizing that, and I think you get that with maturity as a leader, that you then see career paths and think, I was part of that. That individual started with me and they've gone off, or vice versa, where people join the company. But it's interesting a bit about self-assessment and taking responsibility for, one, your own career, but also how you treat your colleagues. And we do a questionnaire where you sort of agree or not agree. And a sort of example, there's a 12-point plan, an example of something you might be asking yourself as a leader. I discuss with my staff members how their current performance affects their career goals.
Yeah. But this is where, that is such a powerful question, hasn't it?
And it's as a leader, are you actually doing that as part of your appraisal system, performance management system? I help my staff members develop detailed action plans based on their career goals. So I think it's about incorporating those questions to allow the individual to think about it. And then it's spotting who's those high flyers, and then at different stages that they're with you in the business, having those questions. So perfect aims and goals.
So here's an interesting.
It's like I've got stuff prepared that I knew. And for anybody who uses we do prep, and I just think, well, they might say this, they might say that.
But you should never assume that you know the capabilities of your employees and your colleagues. Because sometimes actually an individual doesn't know their own capability. It's your job as a leader and coach to draw that out of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a flip on that too, in the fact that if you are potentially within HR in the business, within leadership, within people management, within a role where you are aware of those around you and your colleagues, you might need to support your boss with this. You might need to come a little bit, with best foot forward when it comes to an appraisal to say, actually, could we talk about my career goals and aims? Could we talk about where I'd like to be? Could we talk about my career development? Because I think, sorry, everybody, yard alarm. It's going to happen today. Something always happens on a Thursday. Nothing all week, and then Thursdays. And I think that's really, I feel like I want to say that. I feel that people, it is also the responsibility of an individual. If you don't raise it, if you don't talk about it, don't presume your boss knows, don't presume your employer knows, don't presume the company knows. And when we talk about long-term retention, when we talk about long-term happiness at work, when we talk about really building those relationships happen by really good, really effective, really transparent, regular communication. And we all sometimes get stuck with going, oh, work's really busy and this happens, and oh, this is happening and they're at this point, and we presume, don't we?
And that's really important, Charlotte, as well, of the plans of the business. So those senior leaders, if there's going to be organisational change, which successful businesses are always changing, therefore, how does that fit in with an individual's career plans? Yeah. And this is where they can be defining the company is going in one direction, but actually that might not be right. And that's where that individual may move on to a different company, as we've discussed, but you still maintain that relationship. Or actually the changes offer the positive, which normally they are, which is going to create a different opportunity for that individual. However, with experience, and you'll know as fellow recruiters, how many line managers may keep hold of a good employee. And this is where these development career chats need to be perhaps talking about how they move to a different department in order to grow their career. And those aims and goals are to enhance somebody's skills, to give them the opportunity to move elsewhere. And that's not always a promotion, but it might be doing something different in a different part of the business. And that's how you retain those people.
There's some great stories, aren't there, of companies where you join them, you maybe as an apprentice or as a junior, you get trained in a department, but where you can red flag at any point to say, actually, I'm ready for more, and they'll train you in another department, and then you go, right, I'm ready for more, they'll train you in something else. So you then create a community, and particularly we see it here in Northamptonshire engineering manufacturing businesses, where you then have multi-skilled people.
Yeah.
But that's a big, brave conversation for the employer to say, I'm willing, that person might be really good on a press brake, but actually I need them to go on to, powder coating, but as a business, you're going to retain the people longer. We're all alarmed today. Any more sound effects? There might be more young Okay.
And I think it's as well, companies using their apprenticeship levy with their training. I'm surprised at how many companies aren't using the levy to help invest in individuals. And I remember us having a client when I was delivering the interview training face-to-face, and we do a benefits exercise for those who know me, or go through all the benefits and look at the value of it. And a company had a whole training centre, and they were allowed to have unlimited access to any training across the business. And if they were an engineer, they could do an accountancy qualification. They could do a HR qualification. I mean, the budget was huge. I was so shocked. I've never seen a company with such amazing investment. But it was all about, there wasn't just the training in your area. You could access training and paid courses in any other specialism. Now, isn't that just great?
And how did that impact on their retention?
Massively, it was huge. So they had great retention rates and so attractive for recruitment.
Absolutely.
I think there is a challenge for bigger organisations versus SMEs. So when you're talking about, people want to move around and develop, there might not be the opportunities within an SME. But again, I think this comes down from a leadership point of view, and when you're leading a business, of being honest and say, well, what can we offer, and where is our risk? So if it is we can't develop people, you're back to the Harry Redknapp quote, aren't you? Come with me on this journey and help me, and this is what we will do for you over the next 2 to 3 years. But no, you've got to have some succession planning in there and what's coming behind. And there's always the challenges with larger organisations as well, of whatever they offer, the next larger organisation offers something else, and it comes down to, again, culture, people working with people.
And I think that's an important point of honesty, with not making promises you can't keep with regards to people's careers. Because I've seen it where I've been dealing with individuals and they say, I'm going to be promoted to X. This is my plan within 18 months. Well, actually, unless somebody leaves and there could be a reorganisational structure, are you in control of that and that actual ultimate decision? But what you can be doing is upskilling yourself. You can be networking within the business. You can be improving your self-brand so that when an opportunity comes up, you are considered and then interviewed for that post.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just popped up there. We're talking about what's achievable and realistic, and ask yourself what is achievable and realistic. And for me, that again is in two parts. That is on. So let me. We're talking about your career links to your personal brand, but this achievable and realistic piece is what do you want to achieve as an individual over a certain time frame. So we are in January. So if you start that fresh look of, okay, what do I want to achieve immediately? So what is it that I need to do? So as an individual, your career plan for this year might be as simple as I'm not happy in my job. So I need to connect with some good recruiters, connect with people on LinkedIn that I've worked with before, try and get some alerts set up so that my ideal job is out there. And what am I going to do on an immediate? So that's quite an immediate thing. One of your career plans might be, well, I want to reduce my hours, or I want to retrain. And if it's something that's you wanting to train in for you personally, it might be a quick course, or it might be something that's quite long and needs some more planning. So what's achievable over what sort of time period, and have a look at that and make a plan. And again, from a business point of view, what's achievable and realistic this year? You want to grow a new market, well, you need to hire people. How realistic is that to hire those people, develop those people? So it all comes into, I suppose it comes down to smart goals, doesn't it? What is achievable, what is realistic, what time frame are you looking at, and going back to those core things. Do you see businesses?
Bruce, can I ask you something? What inspired you to do a master's?
Yeah, 4 years of I don't know where the 4 years went. What inspired me? I suddenly realised that I like learning. I think that has become more. I've learned that about myself while doing my master's. So that's a sort of one area that I didn't realise I liked learning. But I obviously did, and I made the choice to do it. But the reason I actually chose it is I'd been in the industry for 20 plus years, and I knew my job practically, but I didn't understand why people make decisions and what influences people. Well, I wanted to learn. So my whole thing was, I realise now the reason I wanted to do it was I wanted to learn. What it's made me do is and I have had to stop myself. So this comes down to what's achievable and realistic, because over Christmas I was, okay, what shall I do now? And I won't go into detail of what rabbit hole I went down. And both my husband and my colleagues have said, Ruth, no, I don't really think you should be doing that. But it's on the back burner. It's probably some additional learning and something I want to do. But I've put that on the back burner for next year, because there's certain things I need to concentrate on this year. So yeah, the reason I did it is there was something in me that wanted to learn, and I hadn't identified. And the interesting thing for me was I struggled with education and learning and how you learn in an educational setting.
Right.
But I still know that I like to learn. So this was very much a push. And
that must be so common in lots of companies where people have progressed through the ranks or set up their own businesses and then reflect back and say, well, I didn't have a degree. However, it's never too late to stop learning.
It's never too late. And also one of the key things for me is I'd worked with so many people over that period of time, and sat with so many people who had been aiming for something. So people who, climbed they've climbed the ladder operationally, wanting to be an ops director or an MD, and they've got there and gone, oh my goodness, I don't like this. And they might have started off as a design engineer and thought, well, actually, I've thought because I've got a degree that I should be running a company. But actually what I love doing is designing. And they've gone in this path. And we go back to the theory of who has influenced them, what has been the expectation. So the expectation for somebody has been, I've gone off to university, I've got this degree. The expectation is I will become a leader of an organisation.
Right.
The reality is I don't want to do that. I love what I do. And really that's the crux of understanding in the theory behind.
And are you, with your outplacement service, are you seeing people really switch careers as well and doing stuff totally different?
Yeah, career transition is a massive thing now, of people just not knowing what's available, because there's so much available. And we see this with young people. They're like, I remember asking the question to a student, how do you feel about the world of work? And when they were just finishing A-levels and going into university. And they said, well, they're not worried about getting a job. What worries them is making the right decision, because there's so much opportunity out there. Yeah. And I think that's where we are. We've moved into a society where if you apply yourself and if you look at lots of different things, there's lots of different opportunities out there, but how do we go about it? How do we identify what our next career is going to be? And as people have said, we're on the chat, we're going to have so many careers. That career transition piece, Phillippa, is really big in people. And it's from anybody that's just completed their degree and then gone, I'm not sure I want to use this, to people that have, been climbed the ladder maybe in finance or operations or whatever, and then have thought, I need to do something different.
So our next session, Phillippa, in Q1 for this year is actually looking at that, repurposing your skills, career transition, and how we plan for that, as falling under this networking, community, business and career strategy, because it does tie into this. We're talking about, right, what's realistic, what's achievable. Sometimes these things take time, and it's actually, how do we plan to do that? So Ruth had always talked, and we talked for years, didn't we, Ruth, about you going off to do your masters. When's going to be the right time? When's there going to be a window of opportunity? When actually is it going to be most relevant for the work that you're doing? When is it necessary? And that is so true, and particularly if you're transitioning into a different industry, it's like, okay, well, you might have the soft skills, but have you got the technical skills on paper? What do you actually need to have on paper? Do you need stuff on paper? I don't know about you, but I often find, particularly in the market that I work in, that sort of SME, medium-sized business is fine. You still might have 2,000 employees, but there's so many of them who've experienced by years served rather than paper. And actually, right, okay, well, what do we need on paper to then move forward again? But I think that achievable and realistic is really important. And again, it's the dialogue between employer and employee. How do we achieve this? What goals? And again, that goals names. What habits do we need to put in place to make that happen for you as an individual? But what do we need to put in place for us as a business in terms of?
I love that. That throws me back to last year when we talked about habits. Right. It's about creating. We talk about goals and what we can achieve, but it is all down to habits and behaviour, isn't it? What habits do we need to create? Yeah. And I think that's a nice start to the year of saying, okay, so what habits am I going to, implement this year that is going to be best for me as an individual? And again, maybe as businesses, we look at behaviours. What behaviours do we need to be demonstrating for the culture of our organisations, so that we have got that talent coming through, and we're retaining the talent that we want to retain and that we can retain, and we're developing people going forward.
And people feel empowered to make their own decisions, be involved in their own career planning, but also accountability and responsibility. So, you know, some companies, we know they get to such a size, they can end up with a bit of a blame culture. But actually, it's about individuals seeing what are the challenges that the company's facing and how can I be part of the solution. And actually taking an individual responsibility in that respect means they will progress, they will develop, they will get promoted. So there's that balance, isn't there? And we all as leaders want our staff to be taking responsibility and being accountable. But how do we empower them to do that?
Yeah.
I think we could, well, we know we could talk for ages, but I want to wrap up because there's quite a bit that we want to share. So firstly, thank you so much for everybody who has joined and the chat and the shares. There was so much. I hope you can see on any playbacks, but thank you so much for all of your input. As I say, we're doing this over the quarter, so this is all about how we can support each other and how we can network. So be career confident at the end of the quarter, when we come to the end of March, we've got 2 workshops, online free workshops, to cover off even more than we've talked about today. So these are all on our Eventbrite, and what we will do is we'll publish something with everything that we've talked about today. We've got stuff to share from Phillippa, and we've got theory that we can share, so we will produce some content and get that all out to you. But the first one is career planning for individuals. So that's on the 23rd of March, that's in the evening. And then on the 30th of March, we've got talent development, retraining your team, managing future power pipeline, retaining and retraining. And that is a lunchtime event. So they are Eventbrite, so we'll get those links out to you. Phillippa has got a leadership workshop, which is in person. I'm quite excited about that. Right. It's nice and local. So that's Birmingham for everybody. And that's 9:30 to 1, including lunch. We'll get that out there. And we will be back on the first Thursday of February. I can't remember the date. 2nd. Charlotte's giving me my notes. 2nd of February. And we're continuing. Continuing this theme of career planning and for you and your team. So upskilling, how you can look at upskilling yourself, how you can look at upskilling your team where it's needed, and I like this repurposing of your skills, and this links into that career transition. Where do you want to move into, and identify where your team might want to move into. So yeah, talked about a lot.
Fabulous.
Thank you very much, Phillippa, for joining us. It's been enlightening. My head's nicely full.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Charlotte, lovely to see you as always.
Great to be back. Really excited about 2023. Loads going on. So yeah, great to be back. Phillippa, thank you. We love having you here. We love having you as part of our team. So thank you so much for your insight. And yeah, really, really positive.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Have the rest of a good day. And we will be in touch with information and see you in February.
See you in February, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.